Hi, my name is Tiffany Wilkinson, and I am doing a short reflection on audio perceptions and what I've learned about them and how they affect students that we serve. So, for me, audio perceptions refers to the judgments and assumptions people can make based on how someone sounds when they speak. Personally, I grew up with a friend that had that missing R sound that most children get. And most kids tend to outgrow. However, she maintained this R sound substitution up until adulthood. It's still kind of a problem for her. As a teenager, she would often get made fun of, saying she had baby talk, and they kind of messed with her about that. As an adult in her job, she wouldn't get taken as seriously. Customer service was kind of an issue. People often would say, oh, let me speak to the adult kind of situation. It's very passive aggressive, and people made assumptions about her based on how she spoke. So based on that experience, I kind of viewed speech differences as something that just requires more understanding, that just because we speak a certain way does not mean that we are not capable of doing anything. If I were going to explain this to someone who's not in education, like for instance, my husband, I would, I might say something like, remember all those times you went up north. He was in the Navy, so he would spend a lot of time up north, and they always wanted to hear him talk because he's from the South. And occasionally he would have people who would make weird comments about how he must live on a farm and things like that. And they just really kind of made fun of him for how he spoke. And so I would bring that up to him and say, look, just because you were from the South didn't necessarily mean you were on a farm. So those are kind of the perceptions people have about us based on how we talk. So that would be what an audio perception is. So, for example, the kids who say wabbit instead of rabbit, which is a common thing. Again, as a kindergartner, it's cute. It's adorable. People love that. But once they start getting into the upper elementary grades, that's when you start seeing bullying happening and kids making fun of the baby in the classroom and things like that. And these are all things that can be helped, but not always be completely cured. It may be something that the student has to constantly think about in order to correct as they're speaking. They have to be conscious of it. And so this can really affect how they see themselves. So for students, these perceptions can have long-lasting impacts, both positive and negative. On a positive side, when teachers and peers are supportive and more inclusive, they feel safe to participate. It can boost their confidence, and they can show to have some academic growth. However, on the negative side of this, students who are made fun of tend to withdraw from speaking more in class. They avoid work. They struggle to make more friends. They struggle with self-esteem because of the teasing. And sometimes there's frustration. They often feel like they're misunderstood. They can't articulate things they're feeling or their ideas appropriately, and it can be frustrating for them. These effects don't always go away with age. And in fact, some of those speech problems they have early on can last well into adulthood. And that can affect how they are viewed for their adult jobs, their interviews, social situations, and even relationships with other people. So as educators, it's our responsibility to create this environment where a student feels comfortable and feels like their voices are heard and respected for who they are and not just how they sound. So, I hope this gave you a better understanding of why audio perceptions matter and how teachers can play a bigger role in shifting that into a more compassionate direction.